In this video, I want to have a bit of a closer look at the midpoint. So far we've looked at reading off the coordinates of the midpoint when we have our interval graphed on a number plane, but we don't always want to have to draw up a graph if we're just given the coordinates. So instead, what we can do is, if we've got the coordinates of the endpoints, then we can average those points out. So find halfway between the two x coordinates, and then find halfway between the two y coordinates as well. Alright, so if we have a look at some examples, our first one asks us to find the midpoint of the interval joining the points 2, 1 and 6, 7. So we're going to write our midpoint. Now if we want to find halfway between our two x coordinates, so our x coordinates of our endpoints are 2 and 6. So halfway between 2 and 6 would be 4. Then if we have a look at our y coordinates are 1 and 7. And halfway between 1 and 7 would be 4. So we would end up with the midpoint having coordinates 4, 4. Now this one we can see, we can look at it and we can figure out what's halfway between, but sometimes it's not as easy to see. So let's have a look at another one. So in our second example, we're finding the midpoint joining the points minus 5, 4 and 5, minus 2. So halfway between minus 5 and 5, halfway between minus 5 and 5, that would be 0. Now, if you weren't sure about that, what we can do is find the average of those two numbers. And the way you find the average of something is to add the two numbers together, so minus 5 plus 5, and then we're going to divide by 2 because there's two numbers. So minus 5 plus 5 is 0, and 0 divided by 2 is still just 0. So let's have a look at that method for our next one as well. So our y coordinates, we've got 4 and minus 2. So if we do 4 plus minus 2 over 2, well 4 plus minus, that's just like a minus there. So 4 minus 2 is 2, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. So that means our midpoint has coordinates 0, 1. Now you can use your calculator to figure those out as well. All right, let's have a look at one last one. So our x coordinates, we've got 3 and 4. So halfway between 3 and 4 would be 3.5. So you can write this as a fraction or as a decimal, but 3.5 for the x coordinate. And then we've got halfway between 10 and minus 4. So again, if you're not sure of that off the top of your head, we're going to add them together. So 10 plus minus 4 over 2. That plus minus is just like a minus, so 10 minus 4 is 6 over 2, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. So our midpoint would have coordinates 3.5 and 3.